Right. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Your Way workshop to kick off our photos creative journey. This will be taking place during July and August here at Simple Scrapper, and we use these 2-month containers to allow us to focus our conversations, to focus our skill building activities while we're all still moving forward on our personal priorities. And tonight we're going to be diving really narrow into one specific topic, workflow automation. And so what this means is we're going to talk about ways that you can lean on technology in all of its joys and challenges to make your photo management process easier. And a couple of kind of caveats and context that I want to offer. Number one, sometimes the more automated solution isn't necessarily better because maybe it's harder for you, or maybe it just doesn't quite work and you're always trying to fix it. If that's the case, go for the less techie solution. Whatever, the best solution is the one that works well for you and that feels easy to you. So I don't want to present automation tonight as the best way or the right way. I want to share it as an option that can make things easier. And we're also going to be diving into 3 different areas, and you may choose to only make 1 or 2 of those easier and not all 3 of them. And of course, there's other areas that we're not covering tonight. So what we'll be doing is I'll be dividing you up into small conversational groups. If you attended one of these before, you'll know that we typically go 90 minutes. However, my daughter has a softball game. The first night of our end of year tournament starts tonight at 8 o'clock. So we are going to keep this one to an hour. So I apologize for shortening that. All we're cutting out basically is our icebreaker activity tonight. So it shouldn't be too different than normal. And my little discussion about what's going on at Simple Scrapper will be a little shorter as well. Once we divide you into groups, we're going to recycle them 3 times, and we have 3 different questions. And these are those different areas of your photo workflow that we're going to dive into. So the first one is about photo logistics. You take photos on your camera, on your phone. How do you get them to your computer, your iPad, the place where you're going to store them and do things with them? So number 1, how do you move photos at present, and how could that be easier? And you'll see with these questions, I'm just trying to jog your conversation. Every group is going to go in different directions depending on the experience level, the interests, the knowledge level of the group. And when we all come back together at the end, I think we'll have lots of strategies and tips shared. And so this is a way to kind of open your mind to new possibilities and maybe start developing an action plan for what you want to do next. As with all of our Your Way workshops, it's your way because we're bringing all of your voices together. I'm not teaching you my way or the right way. I will contribute some of the things that I do to our conversation, but I'm so eager to hear from all of you and how you've made things work for you, or maybe how it's not working. And then we can also offer some suggestions for that. Number 2 is, okay, once we have our photos, do you edit them? And if so, do you use any presets or other shortcuts to make them look like you want them to look? And if not, does that even interest you at all? Is that something you want to learn more about? It's not for everyone, for sure. And then number 3, we're going to talk about backup. How do we make sure that our photos are safe? So is your photo library backed up right now? If so, how do you do it, and how often do you keep it backed up? Is it always backed up? Do you do it once a week, once a month, when you remember? So we're going to be diving into that as well. So 3 different zones. We're going to cover as much as we can in this time. This is a really big topic, and we could probably talk the whole hour just on the moving photos from place to place. So consider this a taster, a teaser of different things to Google to learn more about. Please feel welcome to share generously. And when you're in the small groups, know that they aren't being recorded. So we will be recording, obviously, this beginning session and then at the very end. But when you're in your small groups, this is your time to share openly and honestly, and then we can distill that and filter that when we come back together at the end. Okay. Any questions? Before we jump into the groups, you can just shout it out, raise your hand, whatever you need to do. Post it in the chat. I'm going to start getting the breakout rooms together. Go ahead. so awesome. We have 56 people here now. It's terrific. All right, let's create groups of 4 to 5. There we go. Okay, I'm going to send you off. For the first one, we're talking about moving photos from place to place. I will also copy the question and send it as a little message to each group. I hope you have a productive conversation. We're going to do these groups. We've been doing 11 minutes. I shortened them to 10 so that we have some time here to make sure that we can keep the time tonight. So, all righty. I will see you in 10 minutes. All right. I know that was a big question, and I'm sure that was not enough time, but we are going to do our best to keep moving forward. We'll make the groups a little bit smaller this time now that we have more that have joined us. We are going to head on to the next question. Do you edit your photos? And if so, do you use any shortcuts like presets or other types of things to make them look a little bit better or print better if you do at home or outsource printing? And if not, do you even want to start at all? Is that something that's important to you that you just haven't learned about yet? Or do you just not have any interest because that's not something that's critical to you? So lots of different opinions here, but it is a place that you can streamline with batching or other tools to make it a little bit easier. All right, so I'm going to recreate the groups here. Okay, there we go. All right, hope you have a great conversation. I'll send you off for another 10 minutes. Okay, one more round and then we will come back together for our full group conversation. So definitely be thinking about what are your new insights, lessons learned, takeaways, things that you want to try, total like mind-blowing light bulb moments. I can't wait to hear what you've taken away from your conversations, but first we'll do one more round of 10 minutes. And this one is on that age-old tricky topic of, is your photo library backed up? We're all at different stages here or different places. So there is, of course, a safer option here, but no shame if you are not yet backed up. That's why we're all here tonight, to learn about strategies that can make that even easier. So is your photo library backed up? And if so, how and how often do you do it? And then perhaps, I didn't write this down, but if not, what are the barriers that you're experiencing to getting it backed up? All right, I'm going to recreate the rooms and send you off for our last round. Okay. I am going to mute everyone, but you do have the powers to unmute yourself if you need to do so as we jump into the conversation. While you're thinking about your takeaways and what you want to share, I just want to really quickly share two things that we have coming up at Simple Scrapper during this photos journey. So if you weren't here in the very beginning, a creative journey is a 2-month period here at Simple Scrapper. So July and August, we're going to be focusing on photos. And this Your Way workshop is kind of the kickoff excitement builder for that period. And one of the things we've been doing this year is called the creative immersions. So this is our answer to, we have lots of classes, we have lots of resources. How do we help our members move through them together without me or even any of my staff like teaching them directly, because there's a limited amount of time out there and everyone has so many different interests. And so each creative journey, we've been selecting 3 different topics to have an immersion on. And what this is we have regular accountability posts to help you stay in touch with whatever this topic is. One of our immersions has been going on all year. This is a class that the students are taking together. It's actually a third-party class and they're working on their layering skills. But 2 new immersions that we're going to be doing during this journey are, one is specifically photo management related, and the other one is kind of a next step of celebrating your photos. So the first one is a creative immersion on Photo Crush. So Photo Crush is our signature how to manage your photos course. And I think we do it a little bit different than others because we really help you get yourself set up for all the photos you're going to take next before you start worrying about all the photos you've already taken. And that's the approach that I really love. And I think it really works if you felt overwhelmed by your huge backlog of photos, because I want you to be organized from here forward, if nothing else. And so we'll be providing accountability prompts throughout July and August to help you move through that class. We have 2 parts of it. I think there's 10 lessons. I'm not 100% sure on that. We just redesigned it. Last year we finished re-releasing it. I think it was 2020. We first started and the whole pandemic, made things a little confusing, but all that content was recently updated and I'm so excited to guide even more students through that. And then the other thing we're doing is not so much photo management related, but definitely on celebrating your photos. We've had some interest from members in working through some of our sketches and templates. We have a library of more than 600 sketches and templates. So sketches for paper scrapbookers and layered Photoshop templates for our digital scrapbookers. And I've gone through the library and I found my favorite ones that use only 4x6 photos. And so we're going to be doing an immersion on 8 different sketches, all with different variations from 1 photo to 6 photos, single pages and double pages, to help you, excuse me, I need to take a drink. Help you use those 4x6 prints, or if that's just a size you love to print in from scratch. And I think it's going to be fun because it was surprising to go through our library and see we have lots of pages that have 4x6 and something else. But there were very few that had only 4x6. And so I've picked the best of what we had, and there's going to be some fun tweaks to it. And so these are 2 of the things we're doing in the membership during July and August. If you're not yet a member, you can go to simplescrapper.com/membership to learn more about it. You're also welcome to ask questions in the chat. We have a lot of members here tonight, and I'm sure they will be really excited to help you with that. I see one thing here is that the class is called Photo Crush. And the name came many years ago when I first taught it. I believe it was 2015. And it was really 7 days to fall in love with your photos again. So that's where the crush came from. And it's always been about taking out this pressure, the overwhelm feeling, just the weight of our photos by starting on, okay, what are these baby steps that we can take? And as I said, we redesigned the class last year to shift that order a little bit, but it's always been about how to fall in love with your photo library again and stop feeling so overwhelmed by it. All righty. Okay. Before we jump in, I want to send a shout out for the iPhone tip about screenshots. So who has the tip? And we will use that to launch into the conversation.
Hi, I'm Kate. And someone in my group was talking about how she needed to clean out her iPhone photos and what a project that was. And she was surprised at how many memes and screenshots she ended up with. And so I just showed her on her iPhone, if you go into albums and scroll down where you'll see like your photos, your videos, different things, there's one that's just your screenshots, and it'll show you how many screenshots. You can only look at those. So that was going to make it faster for her to purge those out of her system, which is her goal.
Nice. What a great tip. Thank you. Perfect way to kick off. Okay, so let's talk, starting with moving your photos from place to place, managing them in other ways. What are your big takeaways from that?
That's what we talked about.
If you want, the easiest way to do this is to raise your virtual hand. It's under the reactions button in Zoom. If you're not able to, you can pop in the chat to say, I'd like to speak. So, Lorian.
One thing that I noticed is that it's very system dependent, like whether you have an iPhone, an Android, or a real camera, or even, whether you have Mac, Linux, or PC, is going to completely change even the options that you have available. So it's tricky to share learnings when it's like, well, I do this on, this system. Well, I have a slightly different combination of things. That doesn't work.
No, that is very true, even down to what size of memory card you have, because now there's more standard with SD cards, but we've had all kinds of sizes over the years. All right, Iris.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was having trouble where I would unmute myself, but then no one could hear me in the breakout groups. I feel like I have a process that really works for me. And I noticed that in one of the groups that I was in, one of the comments was there's so many choices. And I felt that for me, what worked was just to find one or maybe two that work and use the automated features that those offer. And because otherwise you get really confused as to, should I be using this or should I not? And I think the really important thing is to find one that will fit what you need in terms of space and then use its automated features. So for me, I use Dropbox as my main. And we were talking about how it has the camera and video uploads automatically. And then I take it from there and the camera uploads on my computer and bring them into Lightroom. But then I also use Google Photos as like a secondary backup, but it also has automated backup. So I think you could even go with like something like old school, like an external hard drive. I think, is it just Time Machine that lets you back up, or do some of these hard drives have like if you haven't plugged in, can you have something where it auto backs up?
My Backblaze backs up my external hard drive. All my photos live on one.
Right. Okay. So it's like, I think we're getting overwhelmed with, I do this, you do that, there's this choice and there's that choice. And I feel like some people said they have Dropbox, but they have the free one. And they don't use it because there's not enough space. So it's like, if you know you've used Dropbox, even the free one for, a little bit of time or for some things that you do, then like pay for that one because you're familiar with it, and then use the auto features.
Yeah, it almost it's like we need like a flow chart of, do you have an iPhone? Do you have a Mac or PC? Sue, does something like that exist out there?
Well, we could make one for photo. That's actually a really good idea. Like we could make one for Photo Crush.
Because I think that would at least give a starting point. Now it's not going to cover every scenario.
Right.
Like I have
I can cover the Linux options.
I don't know anybody who has a Linux. That's really cool.
Except her.
My husband would love to have one, but we used to have more Linux.
So maybe we should,
a decision tree could be really useful. Yeah. With all the different, do you have this, so that people can look and say, oh, look, I have that. I could be using that in a new way. Right.
Yeah. Huh. All right. That's an idea to work on. All right. Iris, did you have more to say, or can I lower your hand?
Oh, I did have one more thing that got brought up. I mentioned that I use Google Photos, and I can't remember who mentioned it, that when you delete something from Google Photos, it gets deleted off your phone. And I said, I don't think so, but it's probably also be useful to have. I think I saw one years ago. Someone made a chart with like, if you delete from here, if it deletes from there.
I think Kim had one on her Photo RX account.
Okay. So that's probably also something that'd be useful.
I just looked it up again, and it does say that it will delete it from all your devices if you delete from Google Photos without first turning off the sync option.
Yeah. I keep a separate app around just to delete things with if I want them to stay in Google Photos, but not on my computer. I mean, on my phone.
I think the message there is you just have to understand the behavior and remember it, even if it means a sticky note on your desk. That's what my mom has. She has these little sticky notes about like what does what, and if I do this, this is what's going to happen, because if you don't do it every day, you don't remember.
Yeah, there's a big difference between a backup and a sync, and that's what gets people into trouble.
And I think it's beneficial for everyone to kind of write down what their own automation workflow is, if they have one, right? So someone in the group was saying, that her son helped her back up her computer, and I'm like, where does it go? And she's like, I don't know. Right? Like, well, and that happens, right? And even for someone like me who's very techie, like I forget, if I do this, will it sync with Lightroom Cloud, or does that metadata not sync, or does it delete from here, or does it, like, you know, it can get confusing. And I think, so I made a workflow of my own, like a diagram that shows where it goes, what gets synced, you know, and all the aspects of it, because that way you're like, I can't remember what that does, right?
I mean, I will definitely, I can say that for myself, because as some of you know, I just got an iPhone after using an Android for so many years. And of course my iCloud storage is already full. And I'm like, I've never used any of this. So I still have to figure out that aspect of it. Cause it's not part of my photo workflow, but I at least should be maintaining it and knowing what's happening with it. So, all right, Carolyn.
Thanks. I learned a lot listening to all the Apple people in my groups, because I was the lone Android. So it was just interesting to hear the perspective and ideas that they sparked. One in particular was Sue Baker. I don't know if she's still on here or not. She has a process that she does daily, where she looks at all the pictures that had that same month and day in her whole archive, and then she goes through and deletes like the duplicates and stuff like that. So like once a day, she says she's got about 20 pictures that she has to clean up or not. And then, you know, she's done for the day. And then the next day she does it, and the next, you know, it's like,
even if you missed a day and you kept doing this over several years, eventually you'd get through everything.
Right. Yeah. Rather than sitting there going, oh God, I got to go back and, you know, this is me, got to go back to 2005 and clear out all my crap. You know, It was brilliant. So thank you.
I love that idea. That's amazing. Thank you. Bree.
Hey, sorry, I was talking because I always forget the hand thing because we don't use it all the time. So I guess I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what Iris was saying, is that, you know, a lot of people don't realize what they already have on there. And it's kind of like planners, right? Like you can keep searching forever and ever and ever because there's a bajillion planners and we love them all. Anyway, and you can keep buying new things and you can keep looking, but really at the end of the day, just like turn something on. You know what I mean? Like, and see if you hate, you know, if you hate it, that's one thing, but like, it's better to get things backed up again than having just, you know, search for this perfect system. I mean, because there's a lot of things that do basically all the same exact thing.
Yeah, and focus on like definitely what you have, what you already pay for.
Oh yeah. Exactly. Like, I mean, I can't even tell you how many things I already paid for without even thinking about it. It's like, oh yeah, well, I mean, again, I hate to always be the typical Apple user, but it's like, oh yeah, but like we already pay for Apple One, which is like, it's got the music and the stuff. Well, yeah, it has 2 terabytes already backed up in there. Like, use that if you have it already, like, and use your Dropbox if you already have all that free storage there. Like, we have all this stuff that's just floating around, and I think we just gather it. And it's very easy to be tempted by the shiny new thing. But I mean, how many terabytes do you have out there that you already have paid for?
Yeah. No, I did the same thing when I was visiting my parents over spring break. We set them up with OneDrive backup because they were already paying for OneDrive for a family plan so they could have, you know, Microsoft Word and Outlook and all those things. And so they had plenty of space to be able to back up their photos. All right, Linda.
Yeah, that's sort of what I found out last year. I made it a project to start learning about photo backup and preservation and stuff. And I think, you know, the confusion that I felt was because I had something here, something there, something over there. Basically, what it boiled down to for me was I am an Apple user. I do everything under the Apple tree. And I just decided that while Apple is not, like the iCloud is not really a backup system, it's more like a gathering place. And then I will take it from there and I will save it on whatever I've decided. So I kind of liked Amazon Photos because I already pay for Prime. And so with that, I get unlimited photos. And that worked for me. And it does have a feature that I can turn on. And life gets so much better when you decide not to chase down things like new editing programs or, you know, all this other stuff. I had a perfectly good editing program for basic stuff in the photo program from Apple, works really well for me. And if I needed anything more sophisticated, I went to another program that I paid for that I don't have to have a subscription to. And it was Affinity Photo, and I really, really like it. Maybe everybody won't, but if you've already got the Photoshop culture going, you've got a bunch of stuff in there you can use. So I think make it make sense to you. Realize that photos on your phone are in danger of going God knows where if something happens to your phone. So get them off there. If you choose to pay for storage, then do that, commit to one and use it, and keep it as simple as you possibly can. This whole business to having 3 backups is really easy if you can make them all sort of work automatically. And I found that to be probably the most valuable lesson that I learned last winter when I was doing all the reading and stuff. So it, everybody probably has more backup space than they know about if they stop and think about what they already own. So it's good. And don't be afraid to use an external hard drive. It may be old school, but in some instances, it may be something that saves your can when some of the other stuff goes down. Yeah. So the types of backup, 3 different types probably could be of value to you.
I think that's one of the things we cover in the Photo Crush class is not only setting up your backup, but knowing, okay, where does your photo library live? What is the primary number 1 place that your photo library lives, and which locations are the backup versions? And for some of us, our primary location is local somewhere on our computer or hard drive. And for some of us, our primary location is in the cloud. I know Bree uses Lightroom Cloud, and so that's her number 1 is in the cloud. And so then her backup is a local backup. And so you just have to understand which direction it's going. All righty. Okay. Iris.
Oh my God. I think I forgot what I was going to talk about. Okay. It had to do with, okay, we were talking about different backup sources. Okay, I know what it was. So one thing that came up was the fact that when you do the automatic backups with some of these programs like Google Photos, Dropbox, I don't know if you could do that with the Amazon Photos, is that as soon as you take a photo or video, it gets automatically backed up. Like there's no time lag so that you can go and delete things that you don't want backed up. So I think it might be important to sort of understand that and know where your final, where are you accessing your photos? Because if you're using your phone and you're doing this delete, who was it that said, I think Carol Ann said someone every day went through those days photos. Are you deleting them on your phone? Or are you deleting them on your backup or using something like Lightroom to have a catalog? Because it can get kind of bogged down with everything getting imported into spaces, and then you're thinking you're deleting them and you're really only deleting them on your phone. And the phone shouldn't really be your final place, right? I would hope not. So it was just something that popped in my head. I'm not sure I have any answer to that, but it's something to talk about, I guess.
It's definitely something to keep in mind of knowing if you're deleting at any point, what's happening with it, and is this what you really want to be doing?
Yeah.
So, and kind of thinking through the whole process. All right, Christy.
I was just going to speak to the external hard drive because I have not had great luck. We are a Mac family, and we had a time machine, and then eventually that quit. I've had 2 hard drives, external hard drives go bad in 3 years. And my husband had one quit a month before mine did. So I'm looking at like Backblaze or something for a backup. I already upload to Shutterfly, and because we have Amazon Prime, that's another place if something were to happen to one. So I feel like if I remember to do it, I need to automate on my phone, and I'm not sure it's going to do that. It seems like I always have to go over and switch from manual to automatic, like for Shutterfly. And stuff like that. But
yeah, I think sometimes apps can get logged out and they stop doing what they're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing. So
yeah, so about once a week when I see that app, I'm like, oh, I got to go upload just upload everything and then I'll look through it later or whatever. So I used to think external hard drives was the way to go. And now that we've had so many issues with them, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm going to do something else.
yeah, you don't want to press your luck anymore. I get it. I get it.
I've been burned too many times.
All right. So unfortunately, I need to depart, but Iris has agreed to stay for another 30 minutes. You guys continue chatting because I know we haven't even talked about photo editing at all. We have talked about question 1 and 3 though. So I'd love to give you the opportunity to continue chatting. Iris, you can just press the record to the cloud button if you like, and then I'll just have the recording when you're done.
Where's that?
You'll see it
Okay.
once I stop recording. So, all right. See you all tonight. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I love this topic. I hope if you want to explore more and you're not yet a member that you'll consider joining us. We're going to be chatting about all things photos through July and August. Take care.
If you really want local external hard drive, but you're worried about a failure like that, that's where a NAS comes in. So, right, it basically is a system where it's like an external hard drive, but you've got 2 of them and it's mirrored. So if one fails, you still have the
Can you
other
spell
one.
that out for people so that they know what that is? Because it sounds kind of funny when you don't know
NAS,
what it is.
NAS, and you can look up and you can buy the system. It all works automatically for you, the same as any external hard drive, but it lets you, but like I said, it's mirrored so that you always have 2 hard drives basically.
One caveat is make sure those 2 hard drives aren't the same brand that you bought at the same time because they're likely to die at the same time. So pick up 2 different hard drives of different ages from different brands.
Oh, okay.
Well, you could do the same thing by just having a couple of external hard drives. That's what I do. So I have actually, I think 3, and unfortunately it's not automatic, but you can plug one in, do your backup, and then plug the next one in, do your backup, and so forth. So she's talking about it's called network attached storage, NAS, or it's like a RAID. Some people were mentioning the RAID, where it just connects a whole bunch of hard drives, and you can have one that has even more than just 2. And then everything's mirrored, like she said, but they are still the same type of technology. And there could be times when they fail or at the same time as well. Does anyone else have any other recommendations for the backup portion? Or do you guys use any cloud services that haven't been mentioned yet? Lorian says Crash Plan. Is that the one where you send in a hard drive and then they back it up?
You can basically send a hard drive if you wanted it faster. I haven't needed to because I've been using it for so many years that, the internet speed has been just fine.
Yeah.
So that's another.
I had literally, I think like 6 terabytes or something on Crash Plan, and I had no problem keeping it backed up fine without using the hard drives. Yeah. And even when my whole hard drive, like all my externals crashed, I mean, it took me a long time, but I was able to very easily pull them all down. It was just something I did while I was really bored.
Didn't it take you a while to restore though?
Oh,
You had to do it in batches.
It did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did it in batches. That is the thing though. So that's actually something for Crash Plan, and I believe also Backblaze. They don't let you just download like a whole big file, even if it's not like something that seems obscene to you. It like I had to literally physically click like thousands of items, and I'd have to wait for them to download, then physically click. Like it wouldn't let you at the top of a chain just download something, even if it was a small file.
Yeah, I think you can pay for them to send you a hard drive. I don't know about 6 terabytes.
Yeah.
That's
what they're trying to make you do though.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to make you do. They do not let you
actually
do it.
call it a group, because this is how I've had my computer blow up 3 times, and this is how I've had to do it. So it's in there. You just have to dig for it.
Yeah, they really want you to pay for that service. Like,
Yeah.
well, and Carol Ann, it used to be able to, but when they changed to a business type model, that was when I noticed the change where I couldn't find it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay, yeah, and
know
I'm
if
still
that's- anyway.
I'm still personal. I'm not business. So.
Yeah, they shoved me over into the business.
Yeah,
plan, and
everyone
it
got
wouldn't let me
converted
do
to
it.
business. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
I believe
food
that
for thought.
it's basically, well, it's offsite backup. But I believe they aggregate it so that it's not like they've got a hard drive for you somewhere and they put all your stuff on the one hard drive. It's aggregated into different areas. So I think that's to safeguard, and it's probably in multiple places. And that's why you can't just say, well, I want to get all my 6 terabytes at once, because it's got to pull the info from different places. So I think that's why.
Oh, but it was pretty I mean, I just want to, it was pretty limited. Like I literally had to click like physically like 20 files at a time. And like, instead of just one file, like I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying it's something to consider when you're considering a backup. How do you retrieve those files? Because if it's a giant pain in the bum, it's not worth having that as a backup. That's just something to think about. It seems very safe, and that's great. But if you're never going to have the time and or money to retrieve that again, it's not really a great backup for you.
That's true. And that's something that if you're doing cloud backups, check to see if they have they might call it rewind or past backups or something. Like if you accidentally delete, somehow I ended up having like a period, like 2 months worth of data or photos deleted somehow. I don't know how that happened. And I was able to, in Dropbox, I paid for a plan where you could do up to 180 days. And I found them. So that's also something to consider with your backups is if it's something where it syncs and it's not something that stays stationary. So with Dropbox, whatever you do on your, because it's synced to your computer, whatever you do on the folders in the computer ends up happening on Dropbox, right? So if you accidentally delete stuff, it gets deleted from your backup. So it's that sync versus backup again, that question of, is the service actually backing up or syncing what you got? Someone is moving something around. I'm going to mute everyone, and then that way, as people want to talk, we can unmute. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, someone stopped. Okay, it stopped. Did anyone want to move on into editing? Anyone have anything they wanted to share about editing? Yeah. Who edits their photos?
This is
I feel like
something
everybody in my group
to
edited.
learn. I'd like to learn more about this because I just use whatever Shutterfly has or whatever like my Apple iPhotos has. So if anybody can share what they use, I want to hear.
Okay, Michelle. Who wants to start on that? Okay, well, Carol Ann's got her hand up, so I guess we'll go with Carol.
How do you do that?
In my group, we edit as we need to. Basically, and all of us, our editing was very simple. It's basically cropping and maybe some slight color enhancement, and we just use the tools on hand in their phone mostly. We don't get fancy about anything, and it keeps it simple. Because otherwise, one gal was saying that she was in an editing backlog because she had to edit felt like she had to edit every other picture that she just, got pulled up and stopped dead. So it seems in our group, as you need it, and keep it simple for the best rules.
Yeah, that's a good point. That might work for most people, except maybe if you're ordering photos out and you need to edit a whole batch. But I do the same thing. So I print at home, I edit as needed. Although I'm really tempted sometimes when I do, I use Lightroom. So when I'm importing photos and I'll see some that are so bad, I just want to edit them right then and there. And I don't know if I'm going to print them or not, but I'll do that too. But yeah, I think that's probably true that, I mean, we can't edit every photo, right? Just like we can't scrap every photo. So editing as you go probably works out best for most people. So you said most people in your group did the phone. I see Lorian said she's editing photos right now. Is it on the phone?
Where is she?
Yeah, I edit in Snapseed actually. It does what, and I realized a long time ago that anything I have to do on my computer becomes a bottleneck. Anything I have to do on my phone is something I can do anywhere at any time, you know, while sitting at the park watching my daughter jump up and down, whatever. So it's been a huge improvement when I figured out how to do it on the phone.
Snapseed's very like robust for like an online site. Like Snapseed's
It
very
has
robust.
saved presets. It has, like,
I think it's under
used. Yeah, I love it.
I think I tried it once before or a couple times, and I used Lightroom and Lightroom Mobile, and I felt like it did all the stuff that those do. It's just a different interface.
Yeah. I think it's really underutilized. Like if people who are really looking for like no subscriptions and stuff like that, the Snapseed app is actually really good. And I think it's available on both. I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, Android people, but I feel like that's been one of those that was like a long time ago people really liked, and then like the plethora of apps came out afterwards. And it's just one of those we kind of forgot about, but it's extremely powerful. I think it even has good like cloning and like essentially what like content aware fill does for like Adobe Photoshop, although it's not quite as precise, but I mean, you're also not paying, you know, $50 a month. So huzzah. You know, I mean, it's pretty darn good. And I'm a Lightroom user too. So
Annette said she agreed, and I know Annette said she doesn't like to be on the computer after working on the computer all day. So turning to the phone and the apps. I had told them in my group that I'm the opposite because my eyesight's not that great. I don't like doing things so small. So I do use my big Mac desktop, and I use Lightroom because I like the sliders, but it's really whatever works for you, right? Do you guys, I have a question for you people that do like to do a lot of your editing on your phone. Is that the photo that gets backed up to your cloud or your other backups, or does it stay on your phone?
I back up my Snapseed folder. Yeah.
And then that backup folder gets off of your phone, like it gets back to
yeah, I have a script that downloads everything from all the directories on my phone that have images in it and then automatically files them. So I actually keep the original and the edited one because I'm neurotic like that.
Is that a script that you created?
Yeah, and it's really brittle. People have been like, oh, that sounds great, and I'm like, it would take me a week to figure out how to write it for your phone and your computer. So
yeah.
In fact, every time I get a new phone, I have to update it.
I believe that if you had something like Google Photos, Dropbox, if it gets saved to your, I keep messing up with the terminology, not your camera, is this still called camera roll? If it gets saved to your Photos app, those services that do auto backups from there will take the new edited version as well. I believe so, right? Anyone else have some processes they like to do for editing or apps or questions about what you would like to do? Teresa?
I don't know how to put my hand down, but I'll figure that out after.
I think I might be able to do it for you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'll look.
So one of the issues I've run into in the past is because I've done photography on the side too, so I heavily edit those photos. So some of the photos of my own family, I also edit in the same sort of fashion. But then it comes to an issue when I combine those photos with our everyday iPhone photos, because I don't take my camera everywhere. So I found a good process that worked for me was I wouldn't actually edit my iPhone photos until I selected everything I'm going to put in an album. So last summer I culled my photos first and just selected, well, I don't really cull because I don't delete anything, but I just picked all the photos that I was going to use for a project. And then I edited just as needed. And I found that worked way better than trying to edit everything consistently, because different days, different lighting, different, all the things. So that's just something that worked for me. So might be helpful.
Oh yeah, I really like that. Yeah, that's a good tip, because like I think I said it before, can't edit everything. So it's good to do project based. Yeah. And Brian? Is that how you say your name, Brian?
You can just call me Bree. It's easier for everybody. I just wanted to do a quick shout out for people who do use Photoshop. I feel something that's very underutilized is called the liquify filter, because it sounds crazy and it sounds like a filter, and people are like, that means like Instagram filter. Oh, no, 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 no. It is your best friend. It is the thing that can make you literally take your nose and make it smaller and bigger and smaller. And if that one kid has one eye that always winks, you can literally just pull up the edge of their eye very easily. Wow. And these are things that are like, I hate to say this, but they're like stupid proof. Like it's labeled like left eye and you just do the slider. Right eye, do the slider. Chin, make it, you want your double chin to go away because you just look funky in that photo. I'm not saying you do this with everything. Clearly, we don't have the time to do all this. But it's buried in your filter section. It is not an Instagram filter. It is a fix everything button. And so if you're really looking in a photo and your one kid on the end looks weird for whatever reason, and everybody else looks cool, use the liquify filter and try to see if there's something that you can literally turn a frown into a smile and it looks realistic. Ask me how I know. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those buried things that I think for if people are going to do editing, it's a very easy thing to do if you have something that is just otherwise a perfect photo and you don't know like how to fix the rest of it.
I've never heard of that. I've never tried it, but now I'm going to have to. I use mostly Lightroom for editing, but then I like to open up the stuff on Photoshop when it needs further editing. And I used to by hand in Lightroom do a brush on my background so I could do depth of field, simulate depth of field on especially iPhone photos that didn't have that. Well, now I'm just in love with the neural filter that does it for you in Photoshop. It's just depth blur.
And the sky replacement and all that good stuff.
I haven't done, I don't do that sort of editing. I usually keep it pretty much like realistic, but that depth blur now does that work for you. It's amazing. So for anyone who wants to do or uses Photoshop, there's neural filters now. And some of those neural filters change expressions on faces, but I've never played with those.
Yes. But even the sky replacement, though, you were saying keep it realistic. The sky replacement actually does, for a lot of things, keep it really realistic. For like things like when you have a kid, say, flying a kite. Well, you know, when you're taking that photo against the sky, like it's almost always like a white sky. That's not what you're seeing, though, the way you like in the moment. Like, so yeah, you can replace the sky. Easy. It's one button push for people who want to do that sort of thing. So I'm just saying these are very easy one button fixes for people that, you know, you might be scared to think about, like, but it's pretty easy to do. And those neural filters are bomb.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything they want to share about editing? Did some of those things seem a little too in depth?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think there's obviously other apps that haven't been discussed that'll do some of these things, and they'll some of them aren't even like traditional photo editing, you know, or they come about because of social media, so you can do quick edits and stuff like that. So there might be some others to explore if anyone has ever explored any of the other ones. I say I'm missing some stuff on chat. Lightroom is a powerful tool for organizing and renaming files and sorting them on import. Yep, this is Teresa. I renamed the date, time, camera. Oh yeah, I love Lightroom. I'm a big Lightroom proponent. So if anyone has questions about Lightroom, this is Grady.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I often edit on my phone or my computer, depending on the project. But for my phone, I probably do that the most. And I just use an app called A Color Story. And it is more like what you're talking about, like social media. You can do a ton on it. Like you can end up doing a ton on it. But what I've done is a couple of my favorite filters on there I just have saved as a preset. And so then 95% of the time I just go in, put the preset on, it looks great, and we move on. Not because I don't love editing photos, I was saying this in my group, but because I do. And I will sit there, if I go on my computer and I pull up Lightroom, I will sit there and play with it for 45 minutes just because it's really fun, which is great, but not always practical when I just want to get 5 photos edited to print out for something. So I found that having that set up and in my phone and ready to go, and I can just do that and then send them to my computer, print them, no problem. It's great. When I feel like playing, I can do that, but I sort of know mentally, like, this is a practical solution. This is, oh, I want to play, and can I erase this and tweak this and move this? And so it's helpful for me to know that going in, so I'm not thinking I'm going to do a quick edit and then spending 45 minutes on one photo. So that's just kind of what worked for me. Because it's really fun to edit photos, and you can totally go down a rabbit hole, and that's fun sometimes. And sometimes you don't want to go down the rabbit hole under any circumstances, and so I need to know what works to not do that.
I totally identify with that. I would say I over edit. I mean, I don't over edit as it looks over editing. It means I spend a lot of time just because it's fun. I know a lot of people don't think photo management, photo editing is fun. But you know, I see Lorian likes it too. So some of us do love it. But yeah, some of those apps might be more practical and quicker way of getting the fix without spending too much time on it. Something that came up in one of my groups with those apps is some of them, you might lose resolution when you save. So that's something to keep in mind when you're trying out some of these editing apps is usually, I mean, you can test it. You can have your original and do your edits and export and check the size resolution by printing or checking the info. You can check the info usually on photos and see if it's shrunken down. So that's something to keep in mind if you lose some resolution and some clarity when you use some of the apps. Do you know if the was it called A Color Story? Do you know if that one keeps the resolution fine?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I do know that when I bring it to my computer, I can print in even like larger sizes and it seems to be fine, but I just don't know, like from a technical standpoint, I don't want to misspeak. But
and some of those, it's a matter of settings. In the settings, it might default to sort of like a medium type of resolution, and you can change that, and then some of them don't. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, I think we're gonna go on for like another 5 minutes because then I have to get going. What was the last question? We did backups, editing. Does anyone?
Was this something we wanted to try? I definitely feel like she mentioned that at some point.
It was automation, editing and backups.
Okay. What about automation? Have we talked enough about that one?
I don't know.
Can we ever talk enough about it? Lorian, you're like my missing sister or something. and I know you're close by. We need to get together. Okay, so a lot of if you have something like Crash Plan, right, that has automation in it. Google Photos, Amazon Photos. I know someone said they had things in Snapfish and Shutterfly.
Yeah.
Do those
Who was
now
that?
have automation? Did you say something, Trish?
No, I was just saying, I remember somebody talking about them. I don't know who.
Yeah.
I remember. I thought it was Terry, but I'm sure it wasn't. I don't think so.
Yeah,
No, I use PhotoSync. So.
Oh, okay.
What is it? PhotoSync?
PhotoSync. PhotoSync.
Sync.
It is free. There's a premium version, but I've never needed to use it. If you're just going from phones to computers, then it works just fine without the premium.
And then I brought up the sync versus backup, and if you delete it in one place, does it get deleted on the other, like your phone or your desktop?
Right. Yeah.
So we did mention that. I don't know if anyone's got really an answer, except someone's got to come up with the flow chart for all of us.
Yeah. That's one of the things I like about PhotoSync is that it does delete from my phone when I'm done. And that's a setting you can change. So like my son doesn't want his to delete unless he wants to delete them. But so everyone has PhotoSync on the whole family. And I just remind them periodically to sync, or we have it set up so that it will sync when you get home automatically when it hits the network. And you can choose to have it delete or not delete, but because it's a backup, not a sync, right? So
even though it says sync in the name.
Yes, even though it has sync in the name, it is a backup, not a sync. It moves the photos from one place to the other, and then if you want it to delete, it will delete, which I like because then otherwise, like my husband's phone, for example, will run out of space because he doesn't ever remember to delete them. So, I find that really helpful.
Someone else mentioned, it might have been the same person, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, that they had things in different places, including like their husband's device. So a lot of these services, obviously you just log every device you want into that account and have the settings set so that you can get everything automatically from other people's devices. I don't know if I don't think she's here anymore. But that's not like it almost felt like a barrier, where it's like, well, how do I get the photos from my husband and all that? I personally, my husband has access to our Dropbox, but he doesn't have an auto, have it upload automatically. He just periodically transfers what he wants to transfer in, but it's still into the Dropbox, which is my main backup. So you can set it up for your children and all that too. So it's Amazon Photos with the family. Yeah, I've never tried Amazon Photos. What do people think about Amazon Photos? Works the same as Google Photos, basically?
It doesn't seem to back up as automatically as Google Photos does. Like, even though it says it's supposed to.
But it's still free.
It is free, but I looked at it. In your Prime. My parents have Prime, and when I looked at getting my mom onto something, I nixed Amazon for Google Photos, and I can't remember why, but there was definitely some things about it, even though she already had it and was paying for it, right? There were some things about it I didn't like, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, the video storage is pretty limited.
Oh, really? It's not unlimited storage? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot. Does anyone have questions about something they wanted to try? I know some of us seem to be use a lot of these things. Does anyone have something they've been wanting to try, or questions about some app or process? Yeah, power users of backup systems. I've become obsessed with backing up because I used to have PC, I used to have laptops, and I had a couple of them just constantly crashing, and I'd have to take it to what's that, the Geek Squad, and then they'd have to wipe my drive and I'd have to start over. And it's somewhere in that process, I lost like part of 2013. And after that, I was just like, I need something. That's when I got Dropbox, or started looking into those. And I think I got Dropbox soon after that. Because I was crushed. And I've heard the stories. Like, you just have to feel for the people that just lose everything, or like years worth of, and I never want to experience that. And I lost a portion of a year and I still feel it, you know? So I guess the really important thing is to find a backup system, even if it's hard drives, external hard drives, and do multiples, because yeah, I've had those fail too. I think it's just important to back up our stuff.
Wow. I'm gonna say good night.
Yeah. Okay. So we are gonna log off. It's been a great chat. We'll see you guys around. I don't know how Jennifer usually ends these things.
Adios.
Quickly.
All right. Have a good
everybody.
I'll probably stay on for a bit if people want to hang around.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna discontinue the recording.
Stop recording. Very important.
Yeah.